Hey guys, wanted to go ahead and do a review of the Crinacle Divine. So the Crinacle Divine is actually in here, but it is just basically like a mirror, so I'm keeping it in this container while I'm actually going to be talking about it, but basically, the Crinacle Divine is in here. So yeah, I'm going to go and do a re-review, and although I did make a review earlier, there are some things that have changed, and my thoughts have changed slightly as time has gone on. So yeah, before I go on further, I'm going to go ahead and put some notes on the screen. Please note that whatever is in the notes is a little bit different from the video. All right, so the first thing I want to basically talk about is essentially, I would say, the tuning of this IM. And in terms of the tuning, I would basically say that it's kind of like a, you know what it is? It's kind of like a neutral bright, but it's, in my opinion, landing with the Kiwi Ears Flex ear tips. It lands slightly closer to neutral, or at least my notion of neutral. So it's kind of like in between the Tantrum Origin and in between the Kiwi Ears Orchestra Lite. Kind of, it gives me similar vibes in many different ways. Okay, so let me kind of say one thing here. One of the things I did differently is basically this entire review is going to be done with the Kiwi Ears Flex ear tips, which kind of look like this. And I don't have the original stock ear tips anymore, so this entire review is on the Kiwi Ears Flex ear tips. And I know it seems like I really talk about those ear tips a lot, but I really do like them. I think they work really well with more brighter IEMs. In my opinion, they tend to drop sibilance down, they add a little bit of bass, and they add a little bit of fullness to the vocals, but you do sacrifice a little bit of soundstage, although in this case, you don't. There are other sacrifices, though, so I kind of want to mention that. So, okay, let's talk about bass. Barbie wanna party like all night, and she looking like a zombie in her all fine. So, for the bass, I would actually give this a grade between B and A. It's that fine line where it's not quite great, but it's definitely better than good. The thing is, this bass is thumpy. It has a thumpy tonality to the bass, and it's got a lot of it. But it's controlled, but it's thumpy. But it doesn't have snap. It doesn't have power and aggression. I don't know how else to explain this, so let me talk about two other IEMs, and then let me talk about four other IEMs in terms of bass. So the Tantrum Origin, the bass here is a little light, but it's still okay, but it's a little nice in the way it comes out. I know that's just a really lame word, but it's the only way I can think of. It's kind of nice, though, how the bass is. Whereas this has thump. It has a little bit of thumpiness to it. The Kiwi Ears Orchestra Lite, which I thought, it kind of has a similar kind of warmth to the Kiwi Orchestra Lite, where it's kind of smooth, and it's almost neutral, but not quite. The bass sounds off. It doesn't sound quite right. So it definitely is one step ahead of both of these. Basically, the bass on here, it has impact and power, but not too much, but it's a little bit thumpy. But I wouldn't give this a grade of A or anything higher. And I'm going to talk about IEMs that I think really have great bass. So the Defiant has just like this, it has snap and power, like the way it comes out. The Kiwi Ears Astral has snap and power and impact and just power within the bass. The Tops Pro, it's not my favorite IM, but I can't deny the fact that the bass on here, to me, sounds like it's got snap and power. And then finally, the Swan NV definitely has that impact and power when it comes to the bass, and I would rank these much higher than this, right? So, but I don't feel comfortable dropping this down to a B, so I'm going to give it between a B and an A. It's got good quantity, but lacks that visceral snap and power of like A-grade like IEMs for bass. Okay, let's talk sub-bass. So, in my opinion, if you use the Kiwi Ears Flex ear tips with these, which this entire review is going to be done with the Kiwi Ears Flex ear tips, your sub bass is going to be more correct. However, if you use the stock ear tips, it'll be below correct. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is female vocals. Heaven holds a sense of wonder, and I wanted to believe. All right, so female vocals, they sound really good. I mean, but they're not exactly what I would call A. So again, kind of a theme going on here. It's between a B and an A. Female vocals, they sound really good. They have a smooth, kind of sweet, genuinely great quality to it, but I couldn't confidently give it an A. in many ways, it kind of has, like, I would say, kind of the smooth quality of the orchestra light. It's smooth, the vocals sound smooth, and then it kind of has, like something about, like, similar to the Tantrum Origin, where it just kind of has like kind of like that Sprite, like, you ever, like, I don't know, like Sprite or 7-Up, like that little spritz to it. So it definitely slants slightly bright, but the vocals, they sound really good, but I can't confidently give it an A. To me, it was between a B and an A, and that's with the Kiwi Ears Flex ear tips. I imagine that with stock ear tips, you drop it one down. So it's going to be a B on stock ear tips. It'll be between a B and an A on Kiwi Ears Flex ear tips. All right, let's talk male vocals. Anywhere you go, I'll follow you down. So with male vocals, again, same story. I'm going to give it between a grade of B and A, but not a clear B, not a clear A. Basically, vocals sound actually pretty good, but there's something about it where it's just like slightly off. It's not quite perfect. It's kind of neutral, warm, the way they sound, a little smoother and a little bit, their voice is slightly deeper, but ever so slightly nasal. And the funny thing is, I noticed this with Justin, I noticed this with Chris. Again, slightly warmer, slightly deeper, slightly nasal. And the same thing is actually happening with my voice. When I actually wear these IMs and I monitor, what I noticed is that my voice sounded slightly deeper, slightly warmer, and slightly smoother, but also at the same time, slightly nasal, but not all the time nasal. It would sound nasal when I go, hello, hello, testing 1, 2, 3, hello, hello, testing 1, 2, 3, and I would listen, and I'm like, hey, that's a little nasal, the way that sounds. But my guess is that when music starts coming in and bass starts coming in, you're not going to really be able to like hear that nasality. It's very, very minor, but it's just enough where I can't give this a perfect A. In other words, other IEMs that I've said had better male vocals. Like I would say, although it sounds a little bit kind of like outlandish, like I would give it like basically like Zigot Lush has better male vocals than this. Truth or Pure has better male vocals than this. The Kiwi Ears Bell, again, that $20 Chuck IM has better male vocals than this, in my opinion. But it's a matter of subjectivity, right? So, but I'm going to say between a B and an A. All right, so let's now talk about harsh instruments. So when things get harsh and a lot of basically harsh instruments start coming in, I am doing a new thing. I ask myself, how many times do I have to drop the volume down? How many times do I have to drop the volume down? And the more times I got to do that, the more it's harsh. And if I ever have a gut instinct like, oh my God, that's bad, that's a harsh instrument. It can't handle harsh instruments. So this, how many times I had to drop the volume down? 0 times. So I'm going to actually rank this as smooth. Like it handles instrument harshness really, really well. Okay, let me talk about separation. So when a lot of things start coming in, how does it handle it? It's actually pretty good. Not excellent, but it's actually pretty good. It's nicely separated, but it's not extremely precise. Like I noticed with other IMs, it's more precise. This is more like it's pretty good. Okay, now let's talk about the Soundstage. So the soundstage on this sounds actually pretty wide. Like in all 3 tests where I checked the soundstage, it actually sounds quite wide. So there's that. All right, next thing I want to talk about is vocal sibilance. So when I say vocal sibilance, I mean like like that harshness, that S in like vocals.
Time can be found in season 7, episode 6.
So before I go on further, I want to explain something that might be important. So what I usually do is I kind of want to make sure that my volume is regular volume, so to say, right? So I start going through some songs and making sure, okay, that's give or take about regular volume, give or take. What I'm trying to tell you, and this is important, is when I was listening to like all these different songs to kind of level out, I would notice this little haze. It's kind of like this low resolution haze that was coming across the entire song. And so it's a red flag, because that means that while this is a smooth IEM, it is actually adding some sort of, like I would say some issues here where it just sounds kind of not like, just like this this audio haze over the vocals and over everything. And that's the first warning I want to say. The second warning I want to say is this. enough time has passed where I think there is a conclusive opinion about the divine from a lot of folks. And what I noticed, and this may be important, is that a lot of Trebleheads don't like this IM. They always just say, oh, it's a little dull. It's like not fun. It's like, in other words, I used to be on the Super Review Discord, and there was a lady there, and she does not like this IM, but she likes like more brighter IMs. Like she likes the Hexa, she liked the Performer 5+2, but she didn't like this IM. I knew another person that didn't like it either, and he liked like Hexa and other brightish IMs. So it seems that if you like treble IMs, you're not going to like this IM. In other words, that smoothness seems to come with a cost. Okay, that being said, how are the sibilance scores on here? Excellent. Basically, you're pretty much not going to get any sibilance. It's at regular volume, you're getting like 0, 0, low, 0, 0, like really low sibilance. And then when you crank it, it's really, really forgiving. There's not a whole lot of sibilance going on here. So that's just something to note. So my overall 2 cents, I think what I said last time was that I think this is basically the Tantrum Origin at half the price, and it sounds better than the Tantrum Origin. I don't think that's a fair statement today. That's not fair. Now that I actually have some time to study this, but I'm going to tell you why that's not fair. Well, it's pretty obvious, but let me tell you my 2 cents. Here was my rationale. What has better bass between this? This bass is better. What has better male vocals? This by strides. This is way better on male vocals compared to this. What has better female vocals? They're close. They're close. One on any given day, I can go this way or that way. But when I do the math, I'm like, what has better bass? Well, this has better bass. This has better male vocals. And this has pretty good female vocals. And this is half the price of it. And it has a similar tuning in terms of like it's in that camp. That's not a false statement. And what also a statement is, this is $160. This is $200. This is $280. So that's what I was saying. I'm like, there you go. But there is something that I begin to understand as time goes on. You can't just look at just vocals. There's the non-vocal stuff. And this is better at the non-vocal stuff, right? This is better comfort. This has better, like, if I was going to listen to trance, and I do listen to trance, what would I choose between this? Absolutely this. This is the better IM to choose, because this will dull out basically the areas that you want it to have a little bit of just that air with female vocals, that air with trance. And this ain't it, buddy. This is it, right? So, and now I can't really speak for hip hop, but I probably wouldn't choose these for hip hop. I probably would go Swan NV over this. But I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that this is better at the other things that I neglected in my last review, right? So that's kind of what I want to say. All right, well, you guys have a great day. Oh, goodbye.